must be Thursday. Welcome to Learning Unwrapped, the talk show about your most important life skill, learning, brought to you by International Broadcast TV. Thrilled to be here tonight. Exciting topic about space. So let's get right to it. I'm going to bring in my co-host for the night. Please welcome Shane Johnson.
Hi, Nancy.
And Shane, you're a former engineer.
That is correct. I'm a former electrical engineer.
So I bet you're a little excited to see what's going on here.
I am incredibly excited. I have not met any real life astronauts or really anyone who has worked for the space program. So super excited about tonight.
That's pretty cool. So let's get us started. So our first guest is actually an old friend who used to join us for LATIC Chat, and we've seen him at some conferences because he was a STEM teacher at Bach Academy in Lake Wales, Florida. He is now the Albert Einstein Distinguished Educator Fellow at NASA in the Office of STEM Engagement. Let me say that again. He is the Albert Einstein Distinguished Educator Fellow. I can't wait to hear more about that. He serves on leadership teams for a variety of organizations, including the International Society for Technology and Education, the National Science Teaching Association, among others. And I hear in his spare time, he's honing his skills as an astrophotographer. So please welcome to the floor, David Lockett.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it is so great. We haven't seen you in a while, and that's because it sounds like you're busy.
Yes, it's been quite eventful.
When did you start your fellowship?
I started my fellowship in August of 2020.
All right.
Congratulations, David.
Thank you. It's been an amazing experience so far.
So, David, could you tell us about something that you learned this week? Something new you learned.
I learned so much every day and, throughout the week. And this week, there were additional images released on the Mars rover. And it was amazing to see those because, our students were able to look at those images and they were able to say, wow, these were taken recently. These are current events. It was just definitely an exciting experience, not only for, students to see, but for everyone.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's been thrilling to follow the whole Mars project. So now our next guest is actually one of the people who flies out there in space. Dan Tani grew up in Illinois, attended MIT to garner a couple of degrees, and then his career soared. Literally, Dan lived and worked in space on the International Space Station. And to prepare for spaceflight, Dan took part in extensive training that included hiking, sea kayaking, winter survival courses, high-performance jet flying, and living in an underwater habitat for 8 days. After he retired from NASA, he joined the high school faculty at the American School in Japan. Dan is a Cubs fan and an avid golfer. I'm interested in hearing about golf on the moon. And he is currently the director of foundation grants for the United States Japan Foundation. Please welcome Dan Tani to the show.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here, Dan.
Welcome, Dan. What is something that you learned this week?
Well, let's see. I two things come to mind. One, I've been running a lot, and so I've been listening to music, and I was listening to the song that I was very familiar with, but now, when you're running, you can listen to the lyrics. And it talked about a place called Biafra. I had no idea what Biafra was. So I have a son who's very involved and loves geography. So I came home and asked him about Biafra. He didn't know either, so we had to actually look it up. And it turns out that part of Congo in the 1960s was trying to separate and be an independent country, and they were naming that country Biafra. So it got us down this rabbit hole of the Congolese civil war. It was very interesting. So that was a lot of fun to just came out of a song that I was listening to. The other thing I learned I am learning is that I've got a couple teenage daughters, and my teenage daughters do what they do, and they question everything we eat. And the current thing is no dairy. They don't eat dairy. It's all no dairy. And I was like, you have to have dairy. It's required. Because when I was growing up, you had a food pyramid. You were taught you have to drink milk. It was required. It was it's a nutritional thing. Well, you know what? I've been swayed a little bit, and I'm wondering now how much the dairy lobby was involved in making sure that everybody thought that they had to drink milk and dairy. So I'm learning now about that and trying to figure out, have I been marketed to, or how important is it? And that's been a very interesting intellectual pathway also. So those are a couple of things that I've been thinking
We
about.
might have to have you back on a show when Shane explains, because Shane is vegan, so I'm sure he can answer those questions for you. That's really cool. And Dan, I know that I appreciate your dressing for us tonight, and we also have a photo from you of you in your space suit. So let's bring that up. This was Dan back in the day when he was flying around up in space, right?
Back when I had black hair and everything. So the early days.
So I can't wait to hear more about that. Now, it turns out that Dan would not be able to successfully be, catapulted up into space if it were not for someone who is in charge of the launch services, the mission integration. I got to get this right. Currently, our next guest is currently the chief of the mission integration branch at NASA's Launch Services Program, as supporting over 70 missions in various capacities, ensuring that customers enjoy a successful ride to space. And she's been with the Launch Services Program for the past 13 years. Before that, she worked as a civilian for both the Department of the Army and the United States Air Force, now Space Force, for 16 years. She is currently inspiring 13 NASA engineers to be the best they can be. She lived in Germany for almost 3 years, is the mom of 2 wonderful adults. Please welcome Lori Ulrich.
Hi, Nancy. It's so great to be here. And I want to shout out to Dan. I'm also from Illinois and a Cub fan. So excellent.
Go Cubs.
Uh-oh, we're outnumbered.
All right, that's great. We already have one non-space connection between the guests. So, Lori, please tell us something that you learned this week.
So this week I learned, both personally and professional, just to be kind. It's so easy just to give a smile. We're not in the office, but through Teams or through our video chats, and just in a personal life as well. I found out it makes people's day, and it just sets your pace for the day and moving forward. And like Dan, I also run in the morning with a great group of women. We get up at 5:30 and we're out there hitting the streets, and just a little nod or hello to your fellow joggers put you in a great mood for the rest of the day.
That is awesome. Well, you all have so much to bring to this conversation. So the topic is both learning from space and learning in space. And let's first talk about, so much that happens in our lives has been affected by space travel and space exploration, I should say. So tell me, why space? Why is space so important for us in our learning here on Earth? Who wants to start?
I can give you a good perspective from the classroom. As a classroom teacher, as a STEM and computer science teacher, you want students to have that engineering design aspect in mind. When you think about why space, why? You want them to be able to come up with new solutions, new ideas, and new ways to approach thinking in a different way. Space provides that. It gives you the ideas, it gives you the means to bring those practical knowledge and those practical ideas to new technology. So that's one way from a classroom perspective that you can think about that.
And I was thinking before in talking about when Dan was talking about Biafra, I grew up in the 60s. And if you grew up in the 60s, you actually knew what Biafra was as a country and what was going on. And I also remember learning that Teflon was actually invented in the space program. So we wouldn't have Teflon if it weren't for the space program.
That's exactly right, Nancy. There's so much we've learned technology-wise from space that we've applied to our everyday life, like shoe insoles, for example. And it encourages our young adults and students to go into the engineering and the science and the technology fields. It's so wonderful because it helps build their confidence in school, and they can see the outcomes of the space industry and the engineering industries, and it just motivates them. And so I'm really excited
tell me about
about
shoe insoles, though.
that. Well, the shoe insoles, like the memory foam, benefits the astronauts, and it also benefits those of us here on Earth. So it's just amazing how you can take something that we've developed in the space industry and apply it worldwide. So it helps motivate folks to get into the fields that are more in the science, engineering, math. And I like to see that in the young folks.
Yes, absolutely. And I know we've designed at IDE, we design learner active technology infused classrooms, which are classrooms that are student centered. And I like to even say student driven. So we have a design process, and we have designed some STEM LATIC schools and some STEAM LATIC schools, because I'm with you guys. We need more young people to realize that science, technology, engineering, and math, they're not that hard. We just need to dive into it. Dan, what are you thinking about? Why space?
Well, I agree that most people love space. There's just something about space that is really magnetic about, it's fun to think about and fun to look at. And so it's a great draw into many things, usually STEM kind of things, but it could be certainly expanded into arts and philosophy. So there's something about space that's really universally attractive. What's amazing is I'll go talk to kindergartners, 5-year-olds, and I'll talk about, if I drop this pencil, what's going to happen? It'll fall to the ground. And why does it fall to the ground? Because of gravity. Gravity is pulling it towards the earth. And they're 5 years old. So there's something about it that's really universal. But it's not why. That's not why we go to space. The reason we do go to space.
We don't go for the 5-year-olds?
Well, the reason we go to space is we want to, I think we as humans want to figure out what's over the next hill or what's beyond the next horizon. And we have to learn how to do it. We have to learn how to get there. We have to learn what we're going to do when we get there. And so we're in this phase right now in exploration of learning how we and machines and processes are going to go further out and explore our neighborhood. And so that's what I believe that's really what we as humans want to do. And so the lucky ones that get to work in this industry are doing that. And we're solving the very, very basic problems right now of how we're going to explore space. And so that's why we go, and we get the benefit of working in an incredibly exciting field, and talking about things and thinking about things and working on things that are really exciting.
Yeah, I guess you don't really have to drag yourself out of bed in the morning to go to work, huh?
It's rare. It happens, but it's rare.
That is so cool. I was doing a TED Talk for kids once, and my topic was students as problem finders, innovators, and entrepreneurs. And partway through my speech, I had pointed out that companies are selling tickets to, Mars, and that there's a future plan to colonize Mars. And so I said to the students, how many of you would take a one-way flight to Mars to go and colonize it and live there? And the best, these were all middle and high school kids, every hand in the room went up. And whenever I asked that of adults, it's like, oh, but what's the reality of us potentially colonizing Mars?
100%. There's no question. But am I going to be alive to see it? I don't know. When is it going to happen? Beats me. But I'm convinced that we're going to do it, unless something awful and catastrophic happens, so that we can never afford it, or we lose the intelligence and the skills to get there. That's what we want to do. We want to go live someplace else and experience it and learn about it. And when we do that, we'll learn about much more about Earth and the solar system, and all of that big mystery kind of stuff. But we're gonna do it. Just don't know when.
David, you want to go and colonize Mars?
Hey, definitely. It's definitely a project that it's definitely a project that I'd work on with students. Definitely a project that we'd contribute to.
But will you go?
Yes, we will go.
All right, all right. We have another one ready to go. Now, Lori can't go because Lori has to be here on the ground to make sure that everything can get up there. And I think, Lori, we have an image from a Mars project that we're going to let you tell us about, because I couldn't try to explain this for my life.
Yes, so before we colonize Mars, we've got to explore it, right? And find out what's there and what we can learn from the atmosphere, from the rocks. And so we send up these rovers. And what you see here in the background is a big conical structure with blue, it looks like panels. Those are acoustic panels. That's what we call our rocket fairing. And this is of an Atlas V rocket. And inside the white, you'll see the domed shape with a little bit of a gold on top of it. That is, the gold part is the heat shield, and the white underneath is the back shell. And inside of that is the Mars 2020 rover, Perseverance.
Wow.
And it's sitting on top of a cruise stage. You'll see the white panels surrounding it. And so that fairing safely encapsulates the Mars 2020 rover, and we send it off the ground and we get it to where it needs to be, and it successfully landed on Mars in February, and it's out there exploring now. So we're making our strides and we're taking our steps forward, and we're going to continue to do so.
That is wild. And Dan, backstage, you were asking Lori some questions about those acoustic panels. How was it different when you were an astronaut? Uh-oh. Dan's sound actually sounds like he's in space. Now, can we hear you? Did we lose Dan? I can't hear you, Dan. We have a real audio problem. Dan, you try to figure that out. I'll jump over. We'll keep talking, and then, Julia, we have a comment here that said "blast off." That's what it sounded like as you started describing that. It's like we hear this background noise that sounded like coming from space. So we're going to try and get Dan back to us here. And in the meantime, David, weigh in. Like, what are you doing as a fellow? That's really fascinating.
It's a good question. As an Albert Einstein Fellow, they place educators throughout different federal agencies to learn more about federal STEM. So you can bring all of that knowledge and all of the different professional development and different ideas back to various school systems and informal learning institutions across the country.
That's and how long again have you been doing this? I've already forgotten. When did you start? December? Did you say?
Yes, just past August.
And so, how long is the fellowship for?
They give you 1 calendar year to be in different federal agencies. So it's it goes by very, very quickly. And there's so many different events that happen. So we try to get in as many different events as we can and learn as much as we can in a short amount of time.
Yeah, that's very exciting. And so other teachers could apply for this.
Oh yeah, there's quite a few teachers. I've worked with obviously STEM and computer science teachers across the country, and whenever we're on different workshops or different events, we always share that knowledge, and I can't wait to apply. So definitely an amazing fellowship and an amazing program.
Now let's see. Do we have Dan back? Oh no! We've lost the astronaut. All right, Dan's going to keep working on that. Shane, I'm hogging all the space here with my questions because I'm so excited about this. But what questions might you have to ask our group?
Sure. Well, I'm curious, when was the moment that you fell in love with space? And could you describe it?
Well, I think for me, it started off that I was interested in math and science as a kid. So it kind of grew from there, and I knew I wanted to be an engineer. So I was fortunate enough, I got a co-op during my college career, and I worked for the Army. And we manufactured and load assemble packed missile warheads. So that was pretty cool. Really enjoyed my time there. Got an opportunity to move over to Germany. Came back, and like I said, I lived in Illinois originally, and we wanted to be on the coast. So an opening came up at now it's United States Space Force, but at the time Air Force on Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. So I worked there, and then the NASA opportunity came up, and that was just a wow. Here's my dream of working in the space industry or launch services program, learning about all the cool science and technology that's out there that we launch, working with some amazing people from Goddard Space Flight Center, Jet Propulsion Lab, and just a whole community of folks. It was just kind of a progression for me. And so I'm loving every day that I'm here.
Awesome. And before we go on with answering that question, Dan, the director suggesting that you leave the studio and then use that link to come back. And maybe reconnecting will be better. So David, on to you. When did you fall in love with space?
That's a good question. Throughout school, I had some, amazing science teachers, amazing math teachers that always reinforced curiosity. And, from an early age, from an early age, we loved going outside. We loved outdoor education. We loved looking at the stars, as you can tell, my scope right here beside me. So, from an early age, we went outside, we looked at the stars, we explored that natural world. And, through the various opportunities, traveling all over the world, we fell in love with space, whether it's, astrophotography, whether it's, visiting in the Atacama Desert in Chile. There's just, the opportunity's always been there, and you're constantly reinforcing that curiosity. And, I try to bring that back to students. I bring that back to that curiosity to everyone around me, space. You got to learn more.
I agree. A shout out to those teachers. My parents are former teachers. They're retired now, but thank you for the encouragement and pushing me to do things I never thought I could do.
Wow. Shout out to teachers. And teachers are the ones who encourage all students to be all you can be. And definitely following a career in the STEM fields and maybe to space. I mean, you might be the ones who colonize. Well, you will be the ones who colonize Mars. So as Dan said, we might not be here, but Dan, do we have you back now?
I hope so. Can you hear me?
Yay.
Hey.
All right, Shane, ask your question again.
So Dan, in case you didn't hear, my question was, when did you first fall in love with space?
Wow. Well, when I was a kid, my big hobby when I was 10 or 11 was model rockets. And so we lived near a big field, and I could not only build the rockets and, design them and put the engines in them and fly them. So that was exciting. I love the machinery, the engineering of these rockets. But then, this is, way back when in the 60s. And so when they'd launch, you could hardly see them. They're so far up there. And I started wondering, I wonder what it looks like from up there. And you used to be able to buy a camera that would go on the top of the rocket, but you'd have to have a little discs of film, have to just, do the film yourself. It was a big deal. So I never got a chance to do that. But that started me thinking about, wow, what's it like to be there? What can you see from up there? And so I draw my interest both in the engineering of aerospace, and also my interest in exploration, back to those experiences when I was 10 or 12 years old.
That's awesome. So, I mean, let's take a progression here. So David, over your left shoulder is a something, a piece of equipment that you would use on Earth to be able to fall in love with space. So tell us a little bit more about what that is and what you're doing.
So of course, I've got Celestron telescope right beside me, and we always have to find that our passions, and something that I do in my spare time. I'm learning astrophotography. I'm learning how to better share this skill with those around me. So, I'm out in my local neighborhood. I try to find some dark sky, areas, where there's not too much light pollution, and, we're stargazing, we're exploring the natural world around us. I have so many people that are, that always ask, how do we use the telescope? Where did you first, understand? Where did you first learn that? So, I try to share those skills, and I try to bring that new knowledge and that curiosity. So, we're bringing in so many different minds. They're bringing in a diverse perspective. We're bringing in students that otherwise might not have that opportunity to, see someone that say, hey, this is something I might be able to do. So definitely building on that curiosity.
Right. And it's fascinating. And that piece of equipment looks like I need one of those. Looks fascinating. Now, of course, you would be gazing out there into outer space, wondering what's out there. What is it all about? And then we have Lori who comes along and she'll actually get you off the ground. So Lori, what drew you to the whole launch services program?
I think it was just working with a great community of scientists and engineers and getting the chance to just see the different science missions and everything that is out there to be explored. We have a great group of folks. We reach out to various parts of the United States. We work with great companies, great government agencies, and it's just a chance to do something different every day. Each satellite is different. They all have unique instruments and sensors, and each launch vehicle company has their own vehicle with their own uniqueness. And that's what we do. We make sure that the satellite and the rocket fit together. Any unique items that are needed, we make sure we look into that, provide the right technical insight and oversight, and we make sure we give them a good ride to space and get them to where they need to be. So it's a great experience. It's very rewarding, especially when we see the latest Mars 2020 Perseverance pictures come down. There's nothing better than seeing that and seeing the kids' faces light up as they're watching that. It's very exciting, and it's exciting to see the next generation get excited and to imagine what they can do. It's a whole big group of folks, and we try and build in the diversity and inclusion to get all those new ideas out there and to just explore that. Because the greater information and minds we have working on this, the better we can be.
Yeah. It's so fascinating, everything that each of you are doing right now. And so you then get everything launched up into space. Is it safe to say that you and your team are the ones who we see on TV, that like when the rocket takes off and the satellite starts moving, that everybody at NASA is like, yay, right?
Yes, we're in the control room with our partners, both our satellite and our launch vehicle partners, and we're cheering, and it's a great time because the team has worked so hard to get there. From the beginning of developing the instruments that go on the satellite to finally when we select the right launch vehicle and we successfully test everything and made it and get it all checked out. That's a long process. That could take 6, 7, 8 some years. I mean, people, a majority of their career could be on one mission. And just to see that all come together, it's an amazing feeling when that finally successfully gets into space.
Right. And then that opens the door for our live human beings to head up there. So Dan, you have to tell us, what was it like to live on the International Space Station?
It's fantastic. I mean, so first of all, you get a ride on a rocket. So that's exciting. And I launched both of my missions were on the shuttle. So I get to fly on the shuttle. And quite an amazing machine and a process. And so you're propelled from 0 miles an hour to 17,000 miles an hour in 8 minutes. So you're really, really hauling. It's really a fantastic ride. And then it takes a couple of days to catch up and dock with the space station, and you get there. And once you're there, the space station is, as spacecraft go, really big. And there were only 3 of us living in it at a time. But when you have a shuttle visit, you've 7 more people. So you have 10 people running around the thing or floating around the thing. And but it's pretty roomy. And so, but then living on the space station is fantastic. You have a team of incredibly dedicated and talented engineers on the ground to support you and make sure that you're doing the right thing and keep you out of trouble and all that. And you're basically living in a laboratory, doing science, or when I was there, we were building out the space station. And you get this unbelievably fantastic view of the Earth from a couple hundred miles above it. You're going around the Earth every 90 minutes, so you get a sunrise and a sunset every 90 minutes. There's absolutely, you can never claim that you're bored because you just go to the window and look at the beautiful Earth. It's just a fantastic place to live and work, and I tried to appreciate every minute I was there, and now I miss every minute that I was there.
And I love the comment we see here. Sabrina's daughter Savannah's watching, asked if she can go to space on her next field trip.
I would, we need to get more people into space.
Right?
People ask me what my experience was in space, and I tell them that, I had a bit of I came back so proud of being from Earth, because Earth is just incredibly beautiful. And I come back and I say that I'm such a proud, my proudest citizenship is of Earth. And it really fills me. And I wish I could bring everybody to space, because we would all feel that way. And maybe our ownerships of nationality and of whatever team, our teamness might go away a little bit, or maybe pushed down a little bit. And maybe we would all be proud to be from this beautiful planet as our #1 citizenship. And, we're not going to solve all the problems, but maybe that would make
I
some of our
love
problems.
that. That is wonderful. We should just consider ourselves from planet Earth.
We're all on the big team, and let's be part of the big team.
Right. I love it. I love it. So we're coming upon the time that we take a show break to talk about what's in your mug. But before I lead into that, I want to ask our audience. Whoa, just lost my microphone. I want to ask our live audience. No, not what's in their mug yet. I want to ask them, what's your favorite planet? And I want to ask each one of you, what's your favorite planet as you learned about it, explored, whatever? David, what's your favorite planet?
I'm gonna have to say, I'm gonna have to say Mars.
All right. And Lori, favorite planet?
It's got to be Earth, right here where we're at now, right where we're launching the rockets from.
And Dan?
Yeah, Lori took my thunder. I'm pretty partial to Earth.
All right. Well, I love Mars, and especially because these are planets that we can see at times when you go outside. I love Mars. I love the thought that there could be life on Mars, that, there's water that they're finding on Mars. I love all of that. I love Venus because it's, the planet of love. I love Jupiter because it's the planet of abundance when we talk about in astrology. But I have to say, tonight in my mug, I am celebrating Pluto, because Pluto was a planet and then it wasn't. So never forget Pluto. And what is in my mug is a nice decaf coffee from Café du Monde in New Orleans. Yes. So, Lori, what's in your mug?
So in my launch services program mug, I have water. Need to hydrate. Keep going with that water. But in the mornings, I love coffee from a local woman-owned business called Juice and Java. It's got some of the best coffee in Cocoa Beach.
All right. David, what's in your mug?
I've got a little soy milk in mine. And I frequent my favorite spot here in DC Coffee. So frequently.
Nice. And audience, now what's in your mug? And let's see, Dan, what's in your mug?
Well, it's just soda water, but this is a very interesting mug, a special mug for me. So when I was in elementary school, 1970, I believe, somebody from NASA, I believed at the time it was Neil Armstrong. I really doubt that it was Neil Armstrong, came and talked to our school, and we all got a souvenir And this is the souvenir mug I had from 1970, commemorating the Apollo 11 landing.
Right.
With Neil's speech on the back.
Oh,
and,
that's wonderful.
Yeah. So I've been carrying this around for my whole life. And but I'm just a soda water guy. I drink a lot of soda water, and so that's what's in my mug.
That's awesome. I remember watching that, and it was just amazing. All right. Shane, what's in your mug?
So this is a mug that a friend made for me, so it has some sentimental value, and I am drinking ginger turmeric tea from Buddha Teas.
Ooh.
And what I love with Buddha Teas is that they come with a little quote on the little tab here, and I don't know if you can read that. It says, "Tell the children the truth," by Bob Marley. I like that quote. Tell the children the truth.
I like his music.
Yeah.
And I see that we've got, let's see, we have a shout out to the Death Star, David. And now what is that from? Oh, that's Star Wars, right?
Star Wars, yes.
Star Wars, yeah.
All right, because I was going to say, I have recently become a Star Trek fan. And shout out to my friends in Bhutan that what we decided to do during the pandemic is they couldn't believe that I had never seen a Star Trek episode. So they are now getting together. We get together every Saturday night and watch another episode. So I'm catching up. So actually, Dan, is the International Space Station a little like being on Starship Enterprise?
So big confession, not a big science fiction fan. So
you're a science reality fan?
People are often disappointed at my lack of knowledge of the Star Trek, Star Wars, all that stuff. And so I apologize, but from what I remember, yeah, it's except for the fake gravity that they had on the Enterprise, the space station is just as cool.
Wow. So is it not possible to have gravity when you're in outer space to create it?
Yeah, you could spin a space station and create centripetal forces to simulate or to give yourself radial forces. For the space station, the whole point of the space station is that we are in free fall around the Earth, and that we have so you can take gravitational forces out of the equation of whatever you want to do, fluid experiments or flame experiments or something. So in a sense, the whole reason we have the space station is to eliminate the gravitational forces in your laboratory. So we don't want to spin that, but there are certainly ways that you can create forces to simulate gravity if that's what you needed to do.
Fascinating. All right, so as we move into the second part of the show, live audience, if you have any questions for our guests, now's your time to put them in the chat. And Shane, why don't you kick us off?
Sure. So, David, I know for you in particular, you are interested in equity. So I would love to have a conversation around that. Could you speak a little bit to that, David?
Definitely. Good point. And how can we make sure that all of our opportunities represent everyone? How can we make sure that equitable opportunities are included in space and all opportunities in space? One way to do that is, of course, is to build equity. We want to make sure that everyone is represented. We want to make sure that opportunities are available for everyone. I know a lot of times when we're working with different students, I have students from all backgrounds. They say, "Is this something that I can do?" And I, of course, say yes. Research, do your homework, look at every opportunity. Make sure this is something that you are passionate about. Building equity starts at a young age. You have to make those opportunities available so everyone can have a seat at the table, so everyone can have the same opportunities that are afforded to everyone.
Exactly. And it's like make the pathway open and encourage.
Pathway is essential.
Yeah, and encourage everyone to be everything that they want to be. And because you can be anything you want to be. And that's what we have to make sure that we make that pathway. One of the things we use with schools is our 7 lenses of equity. And 2 of them pair so beautifully, opportunity and access. And I often say, we need to make sure that opportunity, it's not enough, because you may have opportunity, but if you don't have access to that opportunity, how are you going to get there? So we have to make sure that all of our students, all of our children have both opportunity and the access to that opportunity to launch out into space and to become like one of you. Now, there was a question that one of the directors put up just as we got started. So we didn't get to answer that one, but directors, if you can bring that question back up. Bum, 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 bum. There it is. Any thoughts on SpaceX and commercial trips to space?
I think what SpaceX is doing is amazing. I mean, they're a company that came in and started from the ground up. They're building their hardware. They're successful. Their cadence of launching is
unbelievable.
incredible.
Unbelievable.
It's just, yes. And they're doing it with great efficiency, good, fantastic success. I've worked with some amazing engineers from SpaceX, sharp people. So they're providing the opportunity out there. They're partnering with the commercial folks to get the ride at a reasonable price. So yeah, my hat's off to them. They're doing a great job, and I wish them continued success.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I used to work for their competitor, one of their competitors, and so, but I have nothing but respect for them. I mean, 10 or 15 years ago, we thought they were crazy, but in all honesty, you need the crazy people to really shake things up. And I mean, I would have put a year's worth of paychecks on a bet that you couldn't fly back a first stage and land it on a dime. And now they've done it, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 times. And so it's just amazing. They've shaken up the whole market for launch vehicles, and hats off to them. And as Lori said, their cadence is unbelievable. Launching, two in a week. They had an opportunity to launch 2 in the same day, but weather fouled them up, and just unbelievable. So hats off to them.
Right. They just launched one this morning at 3:15 in the morning. It woke me up. Windows were rattling.
The Starlinks. Boy, I tell
Oh
you.
man, yes. It's exciting though.
Yep.
Shane, that's my pregnant pause for you to ask another question.
Sure.
I'll just keep going.
I appreciate that. So Dan, I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about the relationship between Japan and the United States in terms of the space program.
Sure. I've got a sort of a significant relationship with Japan, not only with my ancestors from Japan, but I spent a couple of years living there and teaching there, and then I currently work for a foundation involved in bettering the relationship between the countries. And Japan is one of our really strongest partners in the space cooperation world, I guess. They have a very active and a very sophisticated space program. They select and train stupendous astronauts. My good buddy Soichi Noguchi is on board the space station right now. We are in the same class of astronauts. So anyway, they have a great space agency, and we have a really wonderful partnership with Japan. So they're really strong, and we're happy that they're on our side. Not that they're opposing sides, but we're lucky to have them as a great partner.
Awesome.
For sure. And Lori, what is something that the public does not know about the behind the scenes work, let's say at NASA, that you would like the public to know?
Just that I think they know that we're a hardworking bunch of individuals, and it takes a lot of folks to get that rocket off the ground successfully. I mean, we're talking hundreds of people that work together and work together well. And not only on the rocket side, but we work with our satellite counterparts as well. So it's just the immense amount of folks, hard work, determination, perseverance to get the job done. So, and it turns out we're doing pretty well.
Yeah. And actually, there's a question here for you from Mary. What is your next mission? What are you guys working on?
So our next,
or is it a secret?
It's not a secret. Our science missions, we try and get the word out so everybody's excited about that. But our next mission is Landsat 9. So that's scheduled to launch in September. So we've got a fine young team working that. All the engineers are on board and scientists, and It's moving along well.
Awesome. So I keep saying that word awesome, but everything that you guys are talking about is just awesome.
Literally.
Literally. So in my work with STEM, I have been saying to people that, when you look at a STEM program in schools, the first thing you see is the stuff. There's the robotics kits, and the kids are playing around with things and sphero balls and everything else. And that's all well and good, but you really need to add that second layer, which is the problem solving. So it's not enough to just practice, driving the robot across the room, but, could you build a robot for a specific purpose? And so that's where we bring in problem-based learning, that we want kids engaged in problem-based learning. And David, as you said earlier, design process. And then I take it to another level to say that truly, in order to get kids to fall in love with STEM programs, you really have to have the mindset. That's the question I'm going to ask each of you next. You really need to have the mindset of the scientist, technologist, engineer, mathematician. When you think about what sets your thinking apart, what is unique about a person who thinks as a scientist, technologist, engineer, mathematician? Because I believe that that's our moral imperative, to help children begin to think along the lines of people in STEM fields. So who wants at it? How do you think in ways that are unique?
I think critical thinking is a key part of education and being a successful engineer or scientist or technologist. The ability to look at a problem, assess it in a logical way, and come up with varying solutions. We do that all the time in our field. We have satellites that are sensitive to certain materials, and we've got to learn to adapt to that. And we've got to remove those materials from hardware that we're used to using and change it and test it out and make sure, okay, this change that we made to make the satellite successful, we got to look at it from the top down or bottom up each way and make sure it works. And we've done that. And we've used alternative materials and methods, and we've flown successfully. So I think critical thinking is key.
All right.
I agree with you about problem solving, but I guess I don't. Well, so I think people are born and they're inquisitive, and if we frame the questions right, and get kids to start thinking about problems, I think there's this. I think people are a little afraid of STEM, and I think that it's a downside of the brand that we've given that. And it sounds hard, and it sounds tedious, and it sounds like all the stuff that you don't like, or only a few kids like. And so, and instead of saying, how does the internal combustion engine work, and how can we make it better? You can say, what makes this chocolate more creamy than this other chocolate? Or why do some people why are they friendlier? Or, why does, we can start asking questions that aren't technical or techno. And then we can start developing skills to answer those questions that don't involve trigonometry and then because the people that like that stuff are going to like that stuff.
Right.
I think it's the people, it's pulling people into asking interesting questions that require the skills to take the question apart, maybe do some experimentation, whatever the sciencey part of the technique, for less hard science kind of stuff. And I think you'll get more kids through that hump of deciding that they want to study a science in college, that they didn't like science class in 6th grade. And I think that's the problem that I think we'd like to solve.
Yeah. And, I think it's a really good point. And let's educators who are out there listening, pay close attention to what Dan just said, because I fear that post-pandemic, everyone is talking about learning losses and how do we catch the kids up, et cetera. I fear that school is going to become a lot more of that dissemination of information and trying to, cram content into kids' heads. And the reality is asking questions like the ones you asked that just allow kids to stop and think and maybe even daydream a little and then decide to go and pursue a possible answer. I mean, that's what school should be all about. And that, you're right, that would set people up to be thinking like people in STEM careers. David, what are your thoughts?
I always encourage out of the box thinking. You want to create a culture to where students can fail forward. They're going to make mistakes, but you want them to learn from it. You want them to be able to create and design in a manner to where they're not intimidated. You want them to, explore, having that out of the box thinking, creating that culture of a design thinker is where you're going to get students to bring in that hook. You're going to get them. That's where you're going to get that pique that curiosity. I know many times throughout different projects, students would work on them and say, wow, this is where I was truly engaged. This is what built my confidence.
Right. And I think, I know there's a school that we work extensively in Pasco County, Florida. It's called Bayonet Point STEM Magnet Middle School. Shout out to Bayonet Point. And one of the things we worked really hard on with the teachers there, and they're doing an amazing job working through designing learner active classrooms that are STEM related. The idea is that I want students engaged in design thinking all day long. And they have a sister school that we've worked in, Centennial Magnet School. Shout out to the Centennial teachers, because I know, I remember the English teachers there did an amazing job of mapping their English assignments to a design process. I mean, let's face it, if you're going to write an essay, apply design process. And so it's very exciting when you see students applying design process all day long, no matter what they're working on. Mm-hmm. Could get a little tricky during the lunch period, though, if you have to design, what shall I eat for lunch?
Hey, Nancy, there was a question that came up on the bottom. I just wanted to address it really quickly. And the question was, if people want to work in space, but they're not excited about STEM, what's the pathway? And I just want to say that in the last 60 years, space exploration has all been about STEM. Build the rocket, and it's all hard engineering. Now we're living in space, and we're going to colonize, and now it's about life. And so, if you want to work in the space industry now, we're going to need architects, we're going to need clothing designers, we're going to need lawyers, we're going to need to bring life out into space. We're going to need everything. And so the space industry is not going to be, people that build the rockets and people that make the propellant and all that stuff, or, there's going to be everything. And so policy and the space industry is right now exploding, and it's going to require all sorts of fields, expertise in all sorts of fields. So I think we're going to need great engineers and designers, but we're going to need great everything else. So I think there's room for a lot of people in space coming up.
And will we be bringing animal life up to space?
Oh yeah.
I assume so.
Yeah.
I assume so. Yep.
So, I don't know if you followed the little black-footed ferret, Elizabeth Ann, who is she's cloned from the remains of a black-footed ferret of 33 years ago. And she's just the cutest little thing. Had I thought about it, I would have had a picture for you. But so here's the question. Do we pile all the animals on space stations and bring them up, or do we simply bring up the DNA and start cloning animals in outer space?
Good question.
No one's going to take a stab at that one, right? Dan, we had that picture. I'm going to move on from that one. We had that picture we're going to bring up again of you floating out in space. Tell us what it's like to do a spacewalk, and give us a story about a spacewalk that you did.
So it's as cool as you think it is. Being in the spacesuit is hard work. It's a long day. You get in the spacesuit. You're in the spacesuit for about 10 to 12 hours for a 6 or 7 hour spacewalk, because you have to get your body ready, pre-breathe and oxygen, all this stuff. And so it's a long day in the suit. It's painful. The suit wants to be in one particular configuration. If you want to do anything else, it's force. If your hand wants to be like this, it's force. or this, it's force. And so it's a painful and very physically demanding thing. And it's dangerous. You know, if the glove pops off, you're going to be dead. If the helmet pops off, you're going to be dead. So you have to trust your crewmates and the engineers.
Don't hold anything back, Dan.
Well, telling you like it is. But when you're holding onto the space station going 17,500 miles an hour, and you look down at your feet, and then 200 miles under your feet, there goes Italy, or here comes a sunrise over the west coast of America, and you just realize you're in an unbelievably privileged to be in such an amazing place. And then you're participating in something that's very significant. We're building a space station. We're fixing it. We're doing whatever. You don't send people out just to go out. Whatever you're doing, it's important. So there's a lot of weight in that, in the importance of what you're doing. But it's a lot of work. But it's a fantastic experience to have, and I'm privileged to have done it several times.
That is really cool. We have a question here. The Dear Moon competition. Had any of you heard of that? Send people around the moon in 2023.
I thought that SpaceX sold a seat or a spacecraft that's going to go do Apollo 8, basically, around the moon and back to Earth. But I don't know if it's a competition. Maybe it's a competition to get one of the seats, but maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, really interesting.
I've heard.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I heard it was, maybe a competition to get one of the seats, like Dan had said. But yeah, they're going to do it. That's for sure. When they put their mind to something, it'll get done. And how exciting is that?
It's pretty cool.
Yep.
So I'm going to assume that our live audience who is watching, and some of whom are chatting, and for all of those who continue to watch, since the link is available, are going to feel the same way I am, which is we have 1,000 more questions for you guys. But it is time for us to go. And let me wrap up by asking each of you to give a shout out to the young people out there. Like, what would you do to say to them, to encourage them to go into the field of space and STEM related careers? David, you're up. What do you want to tell
I'm going to say,
people out there?
Yeah, I'm going to say explore. Ask questions. I ask questions, so ask questions all the time. Don't be afraid to try something new, try something different. Research. Be an active part of your community.
Thank you. Dan, what's your advice?
Yeah, it's take chances and explore and figure out what's over the next block over and the next mile over, and go travel, get curious. And there are I know that I have a really privileged job, but there are a lot of really, really cool jobs and so many exciting things to do. Maybe it's space related, but maybe not. But you're going to find something cool. So we need a little bit of everything.
And Dan, I go back to when I introduced you, I brought up that you took part in an extensive training that included hiking, sea kayaking, winter survival courses, high performance jet flying, living in an underwater habitat for 8 days. So I guess another piece of advice to our young people would be get active.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, exactly right.
Use that body, so when you need that strength to move your hand this way to this way, you can.
If
Lori,
you're able, exercise. Yep.
Yeah. Lori, what do you want to shout out to the young people to encourage them to go into your field?
Well, I think as Neil Walsh said, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. So push your limits. Do the things you think you can't do, because you're going to surprise yourself. You're going to get there. You're going to do it. You're going to achieve greatness. And you do it as a community, and you do it together. That's the best advice I can give.
And when it comes to all of the work that you are all doing in terms of space, have you ever had a failure?
Oh, absolutely.
And
we've learned.
Yeah.
Well, see, I think that is what is so important, that young people today need to know. You don't need to come out of the gate perfect. You're the most important thing is, if you fail at something, that you need to learn from it. And that, as they say, you fail forward, and the next time it gets a little bit better. So don't don't stop yourself from taking some of these risks and jumping out there into the field of space because you think you might not be able to do it. Just do it and get involved. Well, I am grateful to this panel. You have been extremely exciting to be able to talk with tonight. And Shane, do you have any parting words for our guests?
Thank you. It really has been a privilege and an honor to have met all of you, and thank you for all that you have done and all that you continue to do to support not just the space program, but young people and our country and our world. So thank you.
Yeah. And thank you, Lori, David, Dan. So grateful that you're on the show. We're going to take you backstage. I'll be back there in a few. I want to be in on the conversation where Shane talks about veganism and turns Dan around on milk, dairy products. I don't know. It's a good thing we don't have a dairy product sponsor. Thank you for being a part of the show. And to the live audience, thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was as exciting a conversation for you as it was for me. With that, again, big thanks to International Broadcast Media TV. You can always watch this show at ibmtv.tv. And if you want to find past show links or always keep up with the next link coming up, you just go to nancysulla.com and you'll be able to always see the links there so that you can be a part of the show. So I hope you'll join us next week. We're going to be talking about reinventing high school. So whether you're a high school student or perhaps a middle school student who wants to have a reinvented high school, or teachers, parents, business professionals, organizational professionals, all of our astronauts, come on back next week so we can talk about reinventing high school. And as always, we're going to end our show with the kids of IDE. Thanks to our producers, really appreciate it, and our directors. We've got Gwen Fahn behind the scenes. We've got Boyd Adolphson. We've got Carrie Gettner. And we are now adding a new co-director, Lauren Francescan. So we got a lot of people behind the scenes too, just like your group, Lori. Thank you to all of you guys for making the show work. And let's hear it from the kids. See you next week.
My doll, May, me and May like to go to space together, especially Maurice. I know there's a lot of astronauts and rocket ships, but I've never been to space before. I want to learn how to drive a rocket ship. I like reading because it makes your brain do smarter, and it's better than watching junk on TV. Thanks for watching Learning Unwrapped. Tune in next week to talk about reinventing high school. I got some ideas.